the Boko Haram insurgents are being decimated, it appears that they are regrouping to unleash more mayhem. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Army, Senator Ali Ndume, has raised the alarm that terrorists loyal to the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP, are regrouping in Lake Chad region. And the fallout of it was the killing of Brigadier General last week and other officers of the Nigerian Army during an ambush in Askira Uba, Borno State. Senator Ndume warned that the terrorists are poised for more attacks despite killing of some of their commanders. Julie, can you please give us a kind of insight into what Senator Ndume is talking about? Because we know from time that this Lake Chad region, basin, has always been their hideouts, a kind of a stronghold of terrorists. So we've succeeded in taking out some arrowheads of these ISWAP guys, and I don't know, maybe they are recruiting more to unleash terror across the country.
I think what Senator Ndume is trying to do is to get us to be focused on defeating ISWAP. The good thing about ISWAP is the good thing about us, about the situation with ISWAP, is their stronghold is the islands of the Lake Chad. They are not as dispersed as Sheikh House Group. Sheikh House Group is everywhere. You find them in central Borno, you find them in Sambisa, you find them on the mountains of Mandara, the Mandara mountains around Goza, Laminkara, all of those places. You find Sheikh House people. They are far more dispersed and ubiquitous, unlike the ISWAP guys, the Abu Musab al-Banawi faction of Boko Haram that has its headquarters in the Lake Chad island. So he's saying what he's trying to do is to get us to focus on exterminating them in that location. We know that that's where they are. All they do, the recruitment they do, the training that they give their people, their armory, everything is concentrated in that Lake Chad, in the islands of Lake Chad, that is called the Tumbus by the Kanuri people. So he wants us to focus on dealing a decisive blow on them in that area. There's no doubt that we have done a good job of taking out their leaders, and I give tremendous credit to the Air Force for this, because it's not as if we have launched a ground offensive in that in the islands of Lake Chad. Of course, it is a much more difficult area to access than other parts of the state in terms of the swampy nature of the area, the texture of the soil and all that. But each time we hear that they are meeting somewhere, we get actionable intelligence that they are holding a meeting somewhere, the Air Force will send rains of thunder on them, and we've been able to take out a good number of their commanders. I saw a video of an ISWAP commander appealing to his fighters not to give up, not to lose hope. He was saying, look, we have lost, and he was mentioning commanders that had been killed by Nigerian forces. He was saying, look, we've lost so person, we've lost so person, but let's not despair. Let's continue to fight because God is on our side. He was saying all of that.
That means substantially, we have succeeded in decimating their ranks. This strong ISWAP that used to take on military bases.
I will answer that question.
Wow, because I read it earlier, Wally Adoye, I read it earlier that we've, because of our air power and everything, we've succeeded in taking out key commanders, and that has weakened them. and this is the time to consolidate on our achievements and mop up.
I think the greatest thing any woman being can do is to die for your country. So I relay my condolences to the families of the general and the other soldiers that were killed. I think from what we read from the accounts, they laid ambush for the general because they were on a revenge mission. The Air Force had neutralized them where they were having a meeting. And we understand at least no fewer than 4 of their commanders were killed. And you know, when you cut off the head of a snake, it's still as dangerous as, you know, when the snake is alive. So they were on revenge mission. And then that was why they were able to, I understand the general received the call that they were attacking Askari and then immobilized. And on the way, they laid ambush for him, killed him, and then some other soldiers. So their action was a very desperate action. It demonstrated a kind of a group in disarray that was ready to do anything just to make itself relevant. I think if you see the pattern of what has been happening in the past 6-7 months, the army, the Air Force, they have been doing a lot of work, to get into the mainstream of the terrorist group, to neutralize them, using air power. So it's not unexpected that there will be some kind of resistance from them. And if you look at what happened, we are now hearing about Libyan mercenaries, being recruited to come and fight on their behalf. So it shows that thousands of people have surrendered, in Nigeria, and for the idea of now going for mercenaries shows that perhaps they are running at wit's end. So we need to commend the efforts of the Nigerian army, and for them to also realize that the game has not ended, because it has now taken more of international dimension with the collaboration of ISIS and all that. But I think we have the capacity to deal with this issue at the end of the day.
Yes, Jide, back to my last question. This would have impacted negatively on this total strength of ISWAP.
Of course, but as I always say, with terrorists, you have to be careful. Don't jubilate too early. Every time we did that, we had eggs on our faces. These guys are resilient. They are prepared by ideology. They believe that they will go to Al-Jannah if they kill Nigerian soldiers or even civilian JTF. So they don't give up easily. Now, let's talk a little bit about what happened on Saturday. ISWAP attacked Askira Oba with more than 24 gun trucks.
Yeah.
They also came with APCs. They also came with MRAPs that they stole from Nigerian army. Now, if they could attack a location with more than, in fact, it was estimated that they came with about 28 gun trucks. Does that look like a group that is gasping? It means that they still have firepower. Of course, the Air Force responded quickly, and the reinforcement from Brigadier General Babayo, who is the brigade commander in Damboa, after the loss of Brigadier General Zirkushi, who was driving 25 kilometers away he was coming from Chibok, where we have this super camp. He was driving for 25 kilometers before he ran into that ambush, because they set up ambushes in the 2 locations, the 2 roads that they knew that will pass through for reinforcement. So, and then they took out this general and some officers. So if they can come, read that story, read that Ndume story again. He's saying that, look, the kind of Ayo, if not because we have air power, we would have been terribly embarrassed as a nation. If not because of air power. That remains the edge that the armed forces have. And it's a good thing that under these current service chiefs, there is a unanimity of purpose. So once the foot soldiers are in some form of distress, in some form of a dilemma, the Air Force will swoop in and then take out all of these guys. It was the same thing that happened in Marte. The super camp in Marte was effectively dislodged and overrun by ISWAP. But all of the weapons that they wanted to steal, the Air Force sent in 3 waves of attacks, and they destroyed everything on that location, because that was the instruction they were given, that anything you see on that location, engage, because they are not Nigerian troops. So if it is weapon that you see an armored tank, engage it, because Nigeria.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
There's kind of, with the information we gathered yesterday after the sad event of the killing of the general, and the reinforcement and the attack. It's quite.
Yeah, this is not a conventional war. We've said that many times on this program. So it will ebb and it will flow. Sometimes we will record successes, and sometimes we will get setbacks. It's part and parcel of a war of this nature. So, but having said that, I think there's a need to commend the current cooperation between the arms of the armed forces coming together to make sure. Remember that a few years ago, there seems to be a war of ego between the different service chiefs about who will take credit for whatever they think is happening. But the last 1 year, there has been this harmonization that has worked for us as a country. Like I said, they're not going to go away quietly into the night. They're not just one day going to give up. They're going to keep fighting until they've been beaten to a pulp where they can no longer fight. And that's the mindset I want us to have as a nation. Don't think they're going to run away like you see in the movies. These are people who are driven by ideology. Ideological people are the worst people to fight, because they think erroneously that they are fighting for an higher cause.
All right, and finally, now,